Alright, actually not that big of an update week. Pretty much 2 packages with, I think, 4 items total between them. Some Switch games, and, let's see, we know the smile has to be a smile. So we can just do that. And then let's get those Switch games in here, which are, of course, The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, another remake of the old Game Boy, and then Game Boy Color game, and then Ni no Kuni, Wrath of the White Witch, which is the second Ni no Kuni game, but I think they are completely independent of each other, so that's pretty cool. Alright, first, we got Shonen Jump One Piece episode of East Blue, Luffy and his 4 friends' great adventure. I think it's a retelling of East Blue beginning part of this stuff. Just pretty cool. I see a Region A, probably in English dub. Yeah. Documentary features the English cast and Funimation crew. Basically, I think the general idea is, you know, we're not getting any new episodes released on DVD Blu-ray because Toei Animation's license on these movies will run out, and then they'll just sit on them forever. So, and if that's the case, then I would actually literally blame Toei Animation for this, and not Funimation, because Funimation's been put in a tough position. I feel a loose disc. TV special. TV special. That's a Blu-ray, and that's DVD. It's a tall version of the thing on the outside. This one. Oh. Pretty cool. Next up, we have Magical Girl Raising Project. Let's get this for a sexy sock. Oh, nice. More cute than sexy, though. Let's see, looking at this, we've got a Region A and B, we've got English dub, and this is just a Blu-ray version. Cute but deadly. Okay, that's actually kind of entertaining sounding. Kind of figured this one would pique my interest, but I have other stuff that piques my interest, and I still haven't gotten around to them. I'll talk about that in a little bit, of course. For now, let's just open this up and look on the inside. First things first. Take that out, and we've got Disc 1, that's a lot of blood. And Disc 2, that's a lot of blood. Unless none of that's blood, but something tells me it is. Couldn't tell if that was a sheep girl or not. It looked kind of sheepish. I guess one way to better tell is to take a look at that. Not a sheep girl, but the fluffiness definitely gives some of that impression. Oh well. Okay, an interesting looking curiosity. Next up we have Kyo Kara Maoh, the complete 2nd season on Blu-ray. Audio, we have English dub, we have Region A, we have clean opening and endings, and Season 2. All in a day's work for the Demon King. I don't remember if the first season had different art on the inside versus the outside. No, that's okay. And the answer is no. That's okay. Ooh, got a loose disc. And there are 3 of them. Oh. Good stuff. I'm trying to think, you know, there's part of me that is a fan of the idea of rewatching this series. That's a lot to watch, and I am so far behind on everything. Anyways, last but not least, Gi Charat. Gi Charat. I've heard some people call it Gi Charat, but I can't help but think it is supposed to be Gi Charat. I've heard other people confirm that, and I don't know who's right and wrong, but it seems to me it's supposed to be something like Digi Character, and so Carrot would be more character and less charade, but I could be mistaken. Standard definition on Blu-ray, Ultimate Collection, TV series, specials, and Winter Garden. That sounds familiar, like I bought all of this on DVD 15 years ago. I don't know. So looking on the back, we got Region A, audio. We have TV series, English, and everything else has Japanese. Okay. Close Encounters of the Adorably Cute Kind, all 33 episodes, which is, I think, a lot of smaller episode sizes. Like it probably says down there, 320 minutes. So 320 divided by 33 is going to be 10 minutes a thing-ish. All in one thing, all standard definition. Pretty cool. Nice to have it on Blu-ray. Anyways, it's a small update, but here's this week's anime DVD collection update. Well, let's see. I didn't watch any anime this past week. That's because of the VR chat avatar editing stuff that I think I started talking about last time. But for this time, let's talk about other stuff, watch stuff. So let's see. There was 3 more episodes of Static Shock, and it's a neat series. It's not one of those that I would say is narratively challenging, but it is one of those series where if I grew up on it, it would have definitely been top tier. It's got interesting ideas that it plays with, and it's got fun lines here and there, really neat animation. The reason I'm not super wowed by it, I guess, is because it's not... It has some simplifications of some ideas, very much in line with a 90s cartoon, although this one's definitely made later than the 90s, but it is definitely top tier compared to a whole lot of that sort of stuff. And that's not necessarily bad, that's just the reality of it. You'll probably have a fire guy and you're like, oh, well, I can think of other person battling fire guys that were definitely more interesting. Like Avatar The Last Airbender, of course, is going to be so over the top of a comparison that I'm not even quite sure how any series can seriously expect to be compared to that in a serious manner. But I'm not trying to compare it to that. That one had actually challenging ideas that it explored. This one is definitely very, simplified. Oh yeah, he can pretend to be a superhero and nobody catches on to certain stuff here and there. It's like, why does that guy look exactly like Clark Kent or something like that? None of that. Let's see. I also watched part 2 of Disenchanted. It's entertaining. I'm really not sure what to think about it as a show. It feels pretty dynamic. Like, it's good because it doesn't feel like it's, oh, we made Futurama and now we're stuck after having done that. It feels like there's styles of humor that are kind of stuck there, but if I thought there was something that was just very, oh, that's an interesting character, that's kind of amusing, and definitely doesn't feel like something that they could have just worked into Futurama or something like that. There's little things about it that are actually fun and entertaining. It's neat. But I don't know. Anyways, I have been playing Link's Awakening. I was going to stream it, but then I kind of realized, first of all, I was doing it late at night. Second of all, I wasn't entirely sure if I wanted to keep my pants on. Third of all, I guess it was a good thing because I've been more speculative with some of my searching, and I don't know that stuff's been necessarily good. And I've eventually reached the point here where I'm like, oh my god, there's 50 of these things. Where are they located? Because at this point, I feel like I've been all over the map and I'm not getting any dings at all. What corners am I missing? Blah, blah, blah. And at this point, I guess I have to figure out the fishing game a little bit more, because I thought that I got the 2 major things you could get from that, but apparently there's like 1 billion major things. I exaggerate, but 2 of them seem to be secret seashells. And I know how to get one of them from there, but I don't know how I get the other. So I've got weird guesses. Oh well. As for my impressions on the game itself, mixed to very positive. And the reason I say mixed is because I could definitely think of a couple parts that were frustrating and it didn't feel like the game conveyed information very well. Bottle Grottle in particular had some of that issue, I thought, where the main problem I ran into, and I don't think this is a spoiler alert, is the magic powder lights torches, and this would be the only Zelda game that I know of where that's the case. Because there's nothing about it that you look at and say, oh, yeah, fire. It doesn't set enemies on fire. It doesn't look like it has fire effects, but apparently it's used to light fire, and that's good to know. You know, I guess Link to the Past kind of had the lantern and then the fire rod for that sort of stuff. And Link's Awakening, you know, okay, magic powder does that too. There was something else that I thought wasn't clearly conveyed. You know, there's just little things there where it's like, it's pretty clear that there were limitations that they intentionally kept in this game that came from the original Game Boy game. Some of the narrow pathways are really good examples, and I'm kind of glad that they did that. It makes sure the game keeps the same sort of feel while not stepping outside of the aesthetic that they've set up, so the visual aesthetic works. But for me, I think most of the importance of this, well, first of all, one of the importance is I never actually played through the game myself. My brothers did, and I got to see some of the more important scenes, and I know enough just from that to be able to really spoil it. Like, I know the ending, I know the very, very lead up to the ending, and I know conversation in the middle, etc. But other than that, you know, just imagery from certain points in the game where, you know, the dungeons had very unique rooms to them that are unique even by Zelda designs past and present, I guess. It's just, you're like, that is a weird, janky way to set things up, but Link's Awakening did that. And those aesthetics seem to be kept here. So like that one space where you have the heart in the middle of the plus sign surrounded by holes. I mean, I remember seeing that a whole lot. Like, my brothers passed through it a whole lot, and it feels like you know, that happened for me here as well, and that feels kind of authentic to the game. So, you know, there's a lot of things about it that feel authentic to the original. So, the one part I'm worried about, and I'm saying this as a person who really only watched it, and then I've listened to the music because I downloaded it, and it's kind of neat music even for Game Boy stuff, just because of certain things. But I'm wondering about the tones of some of the music, because Link's Awakening strikes me as a very musical game, where you don't really think about that too much, but okay, if you compare it to the previous Legend of Zelda games, like Zelda's 1 and 2 only had like a handful of soundtracks. You know, they were NES games, and it was hard to fit music on there, which is why important short tunes were kind of, or catchy short tunes were really important. Link to the Past, of course, had really great music, but it only still had like 3 or 4 dozen tracks. But Link's Awakening is where it goes up to like 90 almost, and every present Zelda game, you know, is more closer to what Link's Awakening set up than to anything else, and that just goes to show you how much variety of music there was in there. Now, Link's Awakening, of course, was a Game Boy game and had lots of short little musical pieces all over the place, but that should be an indication of the, I guess, the kind of musical importance of Link's Awakening. It not only set that staple for every future Zelda game, where it's just like, you know, they always have to have a ton of little music to describe little nuance here and there, but the game itself is also about collecting the instruments of the sirens. Is that right? Which is, you know, kind of music, and each one kind of plays a little tune when you get it, and it kind of feels like it almost feels like sort of an orchestra before it's setting up. You kind of know you're expecting something to happen with all of them, and since I know what happens with all of them, blah, blah, you know, because I know the entire end game, the real question at this point is, does that have the right tone? Because everything else up till now, you know, right now I'm in dungeon number 7. Oh, and one thing I really like about it is some of the dungeons definitely give aesthetic feel reminiscent of the first Zelda, without necessarily feeling like, oh, it's just the first Zelda all over again. It really is a step forward in a whole lot of ways for the series, including the exploring of non-Triforce Ganon sort of story arcs, which, you know, is not too common. No, there's plenty of Zelda games like that. Anyways, the tone of the ending stuff is what will be most important, I think. Because I guess for me, there are certain ways that you can kind of interpret the way the ending of the game feels that the music, I think, supports the idea of. But I've seen before where people make remix versions, and I don't mean like just fans, but also the official games make remixes of songs which don't capture that feel. And you could say to a certain extent that's sort of like the same problem with a book being made into a movie or a TV show, where there's an interpretation of a scene that gets placed on the big screen, and the people who watch it say, oh, that's cool, but I kind of more felt it was always like this. And maybe that means that person was wrong, but it also means that sometimes people fall in love with their own interpretations of a consumed media, especially when those medias are they don't have the fullness to completely say, oh no, it definitely was supposed to be orange on white or something like that. You know, if you so I don't know. It's so weird. And I was kind of hoping to maybe get that far here, but the truth of the matter is it takes me too long going around, poking around, exploring. And on top of that, you know, of course, there's the VR chat avatar stuff. Because I guess I was hitting my head against trying to do some pretty deep stuff right off the bat and developing a lot of tools and understanding of stuff that sort of worked but didn't quite get me all the way there, and what explicitly didn't work and stuff. And I did end up eventually finding an hour and 40-minute video that just really walked through everything I was trying to do, which is the MMD2 VR chat process. So you take an MMD avatar and you put it into Blender and you massage it, and you bring it in Unity and you massage it and you upload it to get the VR chat. And because I kind of knew a lot of steps along the way, because it was an in-depth video, it did a good job of saying, this is the polish I needed here. I already knew about Cat's Blender plugin and using it somewhat, but this gave me what some of the details were doing and why you would want to do them. And I was able to follow the process, make it all the way through, and that was good. And maybe you're hoping that I was all completely tuckered out, completely exhausted. And I am completely exhausted, but I'm wondering if I'm better than I was last Tuesday. I don't remember. I can barely remember last week at all. But over the weekend what happened is one of my VR chat friends kind of introduced the idea that, if you're working on stuff, I wonder if you could work on this sort of stuff. And it's all stuff that I don't really know how to do, but is just slightly outside the edge of me knowing to do it, that it's stuff that I want to be able to do. But the big difference here is that I'd want to do it for my avatar, but I still don't have really clear ideas on what I want to do. Like I don't have direction there. But this one gave me direction. It's like, okay, this is actually kind of exciting me. And so most of my weekend was actually spent trying to grok and understand animation stuff. Like, not just how to replace a hand gesture, because I already had figured out how to do that. And I say I figured that out, but I should clarify that means that I did watch YouTube videos on it, and I did some trial and error and found stuff that worked, and, you know, everything's fine. It's mostly other people definitely creating stuff, and eventually the right combination of things makes sense. But for this one, I wanted a more deep understanding. Stuff that I don't see very often on avatars. Like when you use emotes to turn something on, turn something off. That's a really good example. And what can I say? Sorry. Suddenly my exhaustion is catching up to me. It hasn't been... I don't know. It must be the drive. Let's see. So the issue is, at this point, I now completely understand, not like every nuanced detail of animation, but a pretty good detail of how animation is supposed to work in Unity, enough so such that now I understand why all those videos were giving me hacky workarounds. See, this is one of the problems with the videos, is they'll talk about, oh, here's how you can do the thing, but they don't tell you why you're doing it the way that they're talking about. And that kind of suggested an incomplete understanding of it, which kind of made me wonder if I just hadn't run into proper instruction. And once I found out, okay, now I understand what the difference between an animation controller and an animation controller override are. It's like I kind of had vague ideas, but now I know very explicitly what each of them are, where each of them are used, some of the behaviors of those. I basically reached the point where it seemed like the right way to do a whole lot of things was actually through animation controllers, but, well, your avatar always has a controller, but the problem is that the controller that they have you attached to your avatar as part of doing overrides of animation stuff for VR chat are pretty much all just placeholders. At best, it's just kind of remembering, oh yeah, they said they want to change emote 1 and replace it with this animation. I can do that. But the actual controllers and decision to do this hand gesture when you get this number, and to do that emote when you get that number, and grounded and walking and jumping and all that stuff, all of that is actually not really there in Unity. It's all just placeholders so that when it gets into VRChat can replace them, at least for humanoid avatars. As far as I can tell, for non-humanoid avatars, that all goes out the window. Maybe that means you can make your own. I'm not exactly sure. The important point is that it's kind of ironic. VRChat exists in its current state because it is intended to be an advertising platform or a marketing platform to get people to adopt Unity and use Unity and, you know, go to the Unity asset store and buy assets and all that stuff. But when it comes to animations, VRChat is pretty deliberately subverting the Unity animation stuff. And there's probably a couple of reasons for that. The security concerns are probably kind of non-existent because, again, if you can do arbitrary animators on non-humanoid objects, then that pretty much means that you can do anything, right? So being able to do anything for a humanoid avatar isn't really any different, unless you're just trying to make it where people default to not to doing that sort of thing, but even still, that doesn't really explain things. Now, another possibility is it's really just pure hand-holding, where maybe the complexities of mapping VR to the avatars is so complex that all they can give you is a template, but no, it's going to be completely ignored. We're going to be doing our own thing because it's more complicated than what Unity can support, or something like that. And, you know, maybe that's possible. But if that's not what's going on, then it kind of means that it's just an arbitrary, stupid idea. It's thoughts. But that's why everybody's doing hacky stuff. And what people are doing is they're actually using a documented but not really made obviously available feature of Unity, which is if you go into Unity and you create an animation, you have the ability to take a look at certain things, you know, normally joints, like all the joints of the finger, and say I want to move that, and I want to move that, and I want to move that. But you can also get transformations and say I want the finger to stretch out, or I want to be able to turn a certain thing on and off, so you can make the hand disappear. I don't know if you can make a hand disappear. But, you know, there's things like that, and that's usually what you have access to. And then you also have access to a couple of other things that exist on the avatar, like blend shapes are a really good example. That would be how face movement normally happens. But when it comes to other things that are on parts, you actually have the ability to interact with those a bit, and that's actually what this video, and I think a lot of these avatars do, is they manually modify the animation so that instead of targeting these specifically targetable things, it actually has the ability to turn the behavior of a target on and off, which is kind of like turning the active on and off, except it's active and it's always visible and it's always processing, but the difference is the animator or script behavior on it can be turned on and off. So that's the animator, probably dynamic bones as well, I would take a guess. Although you can also go into dynamic bones and do stuff. I'm trying to remember what. Anyways, the point is you can go and turn animators on and off, and what you can do, what a lot of toggle stuff does, is it takes advantage of the fact that, you know, usually at the end of an animation everything gets set back to its original state. But what you can do is if something else has an animator and that's not considered part of the current animation, that won't get set back to its original state. So you can toggle the behavior so that a thing happens, and then when this script ends, that one gets disabled again, but its contents don't get disabled. So the avatar, whatever it set the avatar up to do, the avatar stays in that state. You know, it's all neat stuff. It's neat stuff. But let's see. That's pretty much why people kind of say, okay, you can use an animator that's turned off, and if you turn it on for a certain period of time and stop it, then it leaves the avatar in one state, and if you turn it on and stop it afterwards, the avatar is in that state. It's pretty straightforward. The only problem with that is if your avatar is not in somebody's line of view or in sight, then it might not do that animation. But I tried playing around with a couple of potential workarounds, but I wasn't getting any real luck. Basically, animators bequeath animators, but I think the animators just don't run. I could be mistaken. Especially since that makes me wonder how some of the emote stuff would work, or if it doesn't work. Anyways, Anyways, you know, going through all that, I had some ideas, and I'm not sure if I've properly tested them on how to maybe work around the problem of avatars not on the screen, having stuff happen to them. But I got inconclusive results because that stuff was complicated enough that I wasn't quite sure where it was or was not breaking down, because it definitely wasn't even basically working, where it should basic work, and it would just maybe work or not work when off screen. But at the end of the day, that's fine because yeah. It's fine because you can't really, Jesus, sorry, I am definitely tired. It's fine because, as far as I can tell, VRChat starts complaining when you have like 4 animators. If you're just doing 3 animators to make it where one thing turns on, you plan to have 3 things, you're talking about 10 animators, and at that point, maybe you're just being too complex, and I should accept the simpler solutions. And I could accept even simpler, because all this stuff just requires me to be able to permanently turn things on and off. But if I just accepted, oh, well, I'll just make them hand gestures, then that could work. The only reason I hesitate to do that is just because I'm planning on putting 3 items on this avatar, and you would only be able to do 2 hand gestures, and I'd want one of those hand gestures to be able to do an action, and that's tricky to do with juggling all this stuff at the same time. So so I don't know. I'm playing around with it, but I think I'm going to go simpler for now, and if I do want to go more complicated, maybe I can try again. But at this point, I think I'm ready to... I think the next step is to try and put a gun in this avatar's hands. I don't know. It's not going to happen tonight because tonight is my streaming night. This time, so my brother's 2 friends can't come, and it's going to be me and my brother, but we're talking about trying VRChat. So I'll be trying to stream that, and we'll see if that streaming of it is good or not. Things to think about. Yeah. Things to think about. Anyways, I'm still playing with that stuff. I need to beat Link's Awakening. I'm not exactly sure what I'll put on next. I mean, I know I still have Camphor in the Blu-ray player, but I'm tired right now. It's not that Camphor can't be watched, but I think I mentioned the show has a problem where there's neat stuff that happens, but I'm not entirely sure why stuff is happening and why I should be invested in continuing to watch it. Anyways, I can't think of anything else to talk about. So y'all, have a nice week.